Director Comey will be back on Capitol Hill tomorrow, this time for a closed-door hearing with the House Intelligence Committee. I asked the ranking member of that committee, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff, if he thought it was appropriate for the president to tweet about the FBI director while his own campaign is under investigation.
Well, there's little I find appropriate about the president's tweets, but I guess what I find most disturbing this week is beyond that particular one, his continued reluctance to acknowledge even that Russia was the nation involved in hacking our election. He again over the weekend suggested, well, it could have been China, and again refused to back off this accusation he's made against Barack Obama that Barack Obama illegally wiretapped him. So that is, I think, for me, the most disturbing thing, at least in the last few days on this subject.
Yeah, there did seem to be some backsliding in that interview with John Dickerson. Reluctantly, it appeared he'd come to the conclusion to accept the intelligence community's assessment of this. Do you think he's changed his mind, or do you think this is just how he's going to be about this set of facts?
I think this is just how the president is going to be. I think he has a very difficult time accepting the fact that he had outside assistance in the form of Russian intervention in the election. But then by the same token, he has a hard time accepting the fact that he lost the popular vote and has to invent the idea of millions of undocumented immigrants voting as the only reason why that could have been possible. So there's a lot of denial going on, but you know, when it takes place in the highest office of the land, it's a very deep concern.
My understanding is that Director Comey actually comes before your committee in a closed session tomorrow, and obviously you can't speak about that session, but given what he today, the question that kept going through my mind is, to what extent you and others on the Hill can be confident that the integrity and independence of the FBI can be defended and protected while it undertakes this investigation?
Well, I have to say I could not find agreement with Director Comey's testimony today, and the distinction, which I found very artificial, he tried to draw between his willingness to talk about the Clinton investigation and his unwillingness to talk about the Trump investigation, and merely the way he framed it as if the issue was really to speak or to conceal, using a loaded term like to conceal, I think reflected the weakness of his argument. In fact, the real question was, would he abide by the Department of Justice policy not to talk about an investigation in the days or weeks leading up to an election? He ignored that policy, I think, very much to the Bureau's detriment. And in fact, I found it interesting that the distinction he tried to draw today, that one investigation was in the early stages, the other was later on, that he didn't disclose the Clinton investigation until it had been going on for 3 months. Well, in October of last year, the Trump investigation, by his own accounting, had also been going on for 3 months. So that is another distinction without a difference.
So then what's your, I mean, it seems like Democrats are on the hook here a bit. I've seen a lot of folks in your position express frustration with what Director Comey's articulated. They think he made the wrong decision. At the same time, this is the individual who now oversees the most potent investigation into the possible getting the bottom of the possibility of collusion or what happened. I mean, do you have confidence in Director Comey? Should he stay in the job? Do you trust him to do this?
Well, you know, look, I think obviously the central important fact right now is the ongoing investigation and the fact it needs to be done well, not only by the Congress, but by the FBI as well. But I don't think that relieves us of the obligation to hold the department and hold the Bureau accountable decisions it's made. I think the decision last year was the exercise of very poor judgment by the director that has politicized, that has dragged the Bureau into the political process in a way that's going to be difficult to repair. Nonetheless, we're going to do everything possible to work in coordination with the FBI. We need them to conduct their investigation thoroughly. We want to make sure that we're not stepping on their investigation. We also need to do our own, and we'll need the FBI's cooperation and their support as well. They have a global reach that we don't have in the committee. So of necessity, we need to find a way to work together. I think it's in the interest certainly of the Bureau to try to restore a reputation for impartiality, but it's also vital to getting to the bottom of just how the Russians interfered in our democracy.
I do want to repeat the question, though, because respectfully, that wasn't an answer. Do you have confidence in Director Comey, and do you trust him and trust his judgment to undertake this investigation?
Well, you know, my answer, as you can gather, is I have serious questions about the judgment that he exercised last year. I have to hope that he's going to do better with this investigation as long as he is in that post, and the president has made the decision to keep him in that post. I'm going to do everything, certainly, to support the Bureau in its work and make sure that, for my part in the congressional investigation, we are working in concert with what the Bureau is doing, not at odds with each other. But I do think there are substantial questions that were raised about his handling of these investigations last year, and I have to hope that he's going to do a better job in the future.
Finally, and quickly, are you confident we will ultimately get to the bottom of all this? We will know definitively what happened, who made it happen, who may or may not have worked with whom?
We're certainly going to do the very best possible to find out exactly the answers to those questions. You know, I can't say at this point that we're not going to run into roadblocks. To a few up till now. I do think that our investigation in the House is now fully back on track. I have a very good working relationship with Mike Conaway. I think we're coordinating our efforts, doing it in a very nonpartisan way, as we should. Some things are going to be very difficult for us to ascertain, even in the best of circumstances, because we're dealing with a hostile power in Russia. We're dealing with witnesses who may not want to be forthcoming with us, with documents that are going to be hard to obtain. But we are going to do our level best to get to the bottom of this, and have to hope that the Bureau will do exactly the same.